G'day, welcome to Say It With Guitars. I'm your host, Pete Cornelius. Each episode I'll be digging deep and getting to hang with some of Australia's finest guitar pickers, songwriters, producers, collectors and makers. I look forward to bringing you these fun conversations and I hope you enjoy Say It With Guitars. Hello out there, wonderful folks of podcast land. Hope you're all doing marvellously well, enjoying the pre-Christmas buzz, all the frantic shoppers, all the mayhem of the Christmas season brings. And it looks like I've probably only got one more episode after today's podcast drop for the season. I think I'm going to finish with one more. So thanks very much, folks, for tuning in and supporting the show. It's been a whole lot of fun making it, so hopefully we can get season 2 off the ground. And a big thanks for all the guests for jumping on board and having some great conversations about guitars. And if you've got any guest suggestions too, shoot them on through to sayitwithguitarspodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on the socials too. All right, enjoy the chat. Before we crack into today's show, I'd like to shout out to our sponsor, Mr. Billy Tarrant from Tarrant Guitars. Billy's an amazing luthier and he makes some real sweet instruments. I'm lucky enough for him to have built me a 00 size acoustic guitar, which I've dragged all around the country and it's sounding better than ever. So yeah, check out tarrantguitars.net.au, Tassie's one-stop custom workshop for custom-made guitars, all guitar repairs and services. Let's get into the show. All right, I'd like to welcome to the podcast today, Mr. Andrew Gregg. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm good. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be in your house, full of your lovely instruments and amplifiers.
Do you feel hemmed in? Because I kind of do a little bit. There's stuff everywhere and it looks like it's about to fall in on us too. So.
Yes, I am kind of cautiously watching my peripheral vision in case something sort of starts creeping towards me. But, I don't mind going out in this way if so be, like a flying V on the head.
He died doing what he loved.
That's right.
Yeah. Fantastic. Which isn't being hit by guitars, it's being with guitars, isn't it? So
yeah, it's slightly different. I wonder if insurance would still pay me out. Probably not.
Well, it seems occupational, so I reckon they'd go okay, so.
Yeah.
Yes, I reckon you'd go all right. You'd go all right.
So here we are for the second time. I don't want to bring up the past too much, but we did record an episode already. I was editing it. It was a great little chat. But the wonders of the technology that we etched this into decided to destroy it, and so here we are again.
It is. So we'll see if we can recapture that magic.
I think a bit of chocolate cake helps. We'll be right.
It does. Thank you, Clary.
Yeah. So tell me, Mr. Gregg, what is it about guitars that attracts you? Like, how have you come to be surrounded by so many wild and wacky instruments and devoting lots of your life towards such things?
Look, first and foremost, it's everything, isn't it? It's everything about them, their shape, their smell, their feel, their sound, just the I'm not going to say grueling minutiae, but just the minutiae about them, those tiny little details that make something special in a guitar is great. And, one of the things that I've always liked about them is there's an innate tactile coolness about guitars that I've always really appreciated, even as a kid, I think. And it's not sort of so much I want to be that guy to get the girls, I want to be that guy to get the guitars type of thing. So I've never been that guy. I've got the guitars, but it's never been through being that guy. Yeah. But I've always liked and appreciated guitars for their sonic values. I think first and foremost, sometimes they're great looks and sort of incredible vibe, and sometimes just because of of what they do. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
and having that extra little sort of sonic bow for your arrow type of speak.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and
What was the initial flame or the spark that generated this interest?
I think for me, now there was a guitar in the house as a kid. It's under a bench, and so I would have a little play on it every now and again. But growing up in the country as you did, but not in the same part of the country, and growing up on a farm meant a lot of times you were involved in a car journey that was going to be a long time.
Yeah.
Dad very early on had a tape player in a car, like the XB Falcon Ute that Dad had a tape player in it, which was probably absolutely state of the art at the time. And so you'd go somewhere and you would listen to tunes.
Yeah.
With Dad, with that car, it was Charlie Pride. I'm not going to talk about Charlie's virtues or whatever, but that was always, those sorts of things were played, and I was exposed to guitar music in that way. The other thing too, I guess, growing up in the country, a lot of time in the shearing shed, and there was a lot of music played in that, whether it was fighting over what tape goes into the tape player or listening to a radio and being part of a massive chorus when a song that everyone knows comes on and you all sung, which I thought was always a lot of fun. So, but it's alwads been there. Things very early on for me that sort of made me want to play guitar were seeing things like, I guess, Mark Knopfler during that sort of phase before breaking out really big time with Money for Nothing and that sort of thing, and becoming a real global phenomenon then, I guess. I'm not saying that they weren't famous and well loved prior to that point. Obviously they were, but that's about when they came under my radar. Seeing Springsteen, I guess, as a young guy as well, for him becoming beyond being that superlative singer-songwriter that he's always been, but getting that commercial recognition and that sort of thing with Born in the USA.
Yeah.
And for me then, delving back into that. But also there was always music in the house, Mum and Dad were both big Beatles fans. So that was always played.
Yeah.
And we had unfettered access to a record player and a big collection of records, so you played it.
Yeah.
And it was always guitar stuff for me. It's the stuff that I always listened to.
And especially being like an isolated area, like growing up in an area where there's space and time, and you have to create your own fun.
Yeah.
There's ways and means of doing that, and I think by playing guitar, that's a great way to not only entertain yourself for that amount of time, but to sort of use it as a sharing or a communal kind of tool, to get together with other people,
that mightn't have been my experience then, because look, having a lot of connections on the East Coast where you're from, I see a lot of music over there, and always did see it. Even as a kid, I think I saw more people playing guitar over there than I did anywhere else.
Right.
And so there'd be people that'd be playing guitar there, but at Oatlands there were a few people that were doing it. I remember seeing a guy that worked at the pool, Greg Slaw, playing guitar while he was there and doing little things, and sort of catching him doing just like a guitar boogie type of thing, and thinking, I reckon I can do that. Going home and having a quick crack at that and finding it. And then, Greg lent me a guitar. I worked that out in a rudimentary way, and that sort of got me going on that. I can remember seeing also about that time Robert Cray on, it might have been, I think there was a Saturday morning show called Sounds, I think it was, on one of the commercial networks that was playing things, and Robert Cray when he released Strong Persuader, and thinking that's really cool.
Yeah.
And liking that and thinking that's exactly what I want to sort of get into now. And very soon, I'm not sure how it works out temporally, if it's true, but I remember seeing Crossroads at a similar time, maybe just after, and then that really accelerated a love of that type of thing.
Yeah.
Soon after, got a copy of that first Columbia Roberts Johnson album. Mm-hmm. And listening and playing that, or playing that a lot and listening to that a lot. And then, by the time that 1991 rolls around and they do that reissue with all of the tracks and all of the, the alternate take stuff, and being super, super ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, super ready for that.
So do you think that that style of playing, like that early Delta style of Robert Johnson, was that? What do you think the appeal was there? Do you think it was just like nothing else you've heard on radio, or was it just like the honesty of one man and his guitar? Do you think, or what was it about that stuff that really kind of?
Well, not being able to believe that one man can do all of that together, and it's still, you know, we all know that he could and can now, but the fact that everyone else sort of, you know, has said, you know, it's two guitar players, it's all that sort of thing, but there was something so unbelievably pure about it.
Yeah.
In that way that it was, there's an absolute, you know, there was nothing for him to hide behind. There's no sort of show going on behind him, and there's no flashing lights, so to speak. It's just one guy pouring it all in you know, whether it's a tiny hotel room or a
facing
makeshift
the corner, apparently.
Facing the corner. I do like the, you know, what I guess being a real nerd on that recent book by, you know, the incomparable Geraldine Wardlow and Bruce Cornforth, that sort of, you know, debunking of Ry Cooder saying in that interview in around 1990 about, well, what he's doing is corner loading, he's looking for a mid-range sound, whereas, you know, they say, well, his sound doesn't change a lot, and, you know, he's in two really different environments. You can't really say that he's doing that. If he's sounding the same in San Antonio, he's, you know, he's in a room that's basically a little spot they've sequestered off in a warehouse, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like or a holding area, if you want to call it that. So I really liked that idea. And, you know, whether it was, you know, they say, and that sort of thing that the wonderful Ry Cooder was debunking, you know, might actually be the real answer, when he's going, he wasn't shy about what he was doing. He wasn't trying to protect himself. He's trying to get a sound. And look, Ry's amazing, but I don't know. I think, and I completely believed it, and I've even, you know, tried recording myself, and I can remember recording, having a 4-track recorder in the early 90s, recording a folk quartet and getting the guitar players right into corners with microphones to try and do that.
Yeah.
And look, the sound, you know, Ry was right. It really did do that. But, I'm not sure about Johnson's motives for doing what he did, but I did like that. And all of that, like, it's such a romantic idea, isn't it? So it was
absolutely
all of it. You just buy in, and he died so young, and that he was, you know, absolutely and utterly, I don't want to say the Bradman of what he did, but in a lot of ways that he was. I know that he's building on lots of things, but, you know, I'm not saying that he invented how to play guitar, but, you know, if you take that he's that, you know, via, even though Johnny Temple beat him to the crunch recording it, Johnny Temple has obviously learnt that sort of classic boogie guitar thing that we all do through Johnson, and that's, you know, that's kind of square one for that. So I'm there's something which is so remarkable about that for me. I buy into all of it. Yeah, all of it. So
yeah, it definitely is an amazing story, no matter which angle that you come at it from, or which part of it is appealing to you. I think the whole thing is just such an amazing time it must have been well. Like, to hear that music, or to just be a part of that movement. You know, and influences from would have been Charlie Patton, I suppose, as well.
Absolutely, Charlie Patton, Lonnie Johnson, Son House, Skip James, whether he's seen him or just heard him, all of those things, you know, coalescing into that, but in a way in which, you know, Johnson was not only, was he good at playing that, but he considers it all in a songwriting kind of way, whereas others are playing guitar and singing stuff. Johnson's actively composing. Yeah. I think, which is the difference, you know. I'm not saying the others weren't doing that in a way, but he was doing it in a considered and discreet way, that he was thinking about composition, thinking about songs, and when you listen to them, you know, ending almost perfectly when he's doing his insurance takes, those takes to make sure that, or, you know, if he's doing, when he's taking instruction to play something faster or slower or whatever happens to that, he's remarkable in the way, and that isn't just, look, I guess you can't discount based upon his virtuosity and sort of genius on the instrument, that it's not just the genius kicking in, but I think it's a more considered and practiced thing that he's doing compared to the other guys.
Yeah.
The other guys would have been absolutely fantastic at holding a crowd, and I'm sure that Johnson was. There's no two ways about it. All of those sort of interviews which, you know, might be a little bit push-pulled, so to speak, but they all talk about him controlling a crowd and being fantastic. But the guys like House and Patton, and they would have been probably a level above that, perhaps. I don't know, but it's lovely to think about.
And I think they would have also been coming from a background of an accompanist as well, like so playing with other people, whereas I think Johnson was more, this is what I do, this is me. I don't know if there's any history of him playing with other people, but
I think he undoubtedly did, but
Right.
not in a way that was like, you know, when you get, well, I guess, you know, the sort of classic ones would be, I guess, Marty and was it Son Sims that played with him a lot? And you get Tommy
Honey
Johnson.
Boy Edwards as well, maybe.
Honey Boy Edwards
Was a bit
probably
later on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Honey Boy and Muddy, you saying?
No, and Robert.
Don't know. I think Honey Boy might say that, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I really don't know. I should really. Yeah, you'd think that being a bit of a nerd on that, I'll pass that one off to Skip Sale wherever he is.
Yes. Maybe I should get Skip on the show.
Do that.
I'd love to have a chat with him on that.
He's
topic.
He's you know, a wonderful friend, an incredible player, and you know, like me, quite that guitar hound as well. He knows his onions very, very well. Does Skip.
Yeah, I always enjoy when a for sale post comes up from Skip. It's always an instrument of much desire
It is.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? So and
much vintage. He's he likes things that
you can taste the
nearly
years in
100
it.
years
So
old.
yeah, no, a lot of centurions in, so to speak, in his arsenal there. So
Yeah.
yes.
So did you break that stuff down and try and recreate that style of guitar playing? Like, was that of interest to you, or did you?
Yeah, it was. Look, it really was, and because I didn't grow up around other guys that were doing this, and because by the time that the reissue stuff came out, there are enough interviews out there that talk about different tunings, and I'm like, well, what do you mean you tune your guitar differently? And so I can remember a good friend of mine saying, well, here's how you do open G, and, you know, you can kind of, if you tune your guitar to a chord, you can play just across the strings and it'll make the chord. I'm like, really? That seems easy. Of course it's not. But, you know, one of the things that, and I know that my very close friend Marcus will attest to this, that when I've found that out, I can remember in a house that we shared on the West Tamar Highway here in Launceston, he was on a fitness kick, and me going from not being able to play slide guitar to being able to play quite passable approximations of things going on in slide guitar while he was out jogging. Now, I'm not a great guitar player by any stretch. I get along okay. But that was something that I picked up really quickly. I've always been a guy that can pick something up kind of quickly. I know there are plenty of people in my circle that are shaking their heads going, you're as thick as shit, Andrew. You do not pick things up. Can you pick up the basic stuff for us, please? But that came to me really quickly.
Right.
And I can, for a long time there, I would do a lot of that and almost live for slide guitar before it was, I guess, what it is now. And I play very little slide now. It's much to my detriment, I think. So
Yeah.
I did a lot of it. I don't know if my sense of pitch has gotten better or my slide playing has gotten poorer, but it's somewhere between the two lies the truth.
It's a tricky one too, because to play slide successfully, I think, on a particular instrument, it needs to be set up for slide.
Yes.
You know, you can, if you have a nice light touch and perhaps a glass slide or something that's smooth, you can get away with a low action and play slide, but the success rate is, you know, smaller, and it's more of a finesse as opposed to, like, you know, tuning a guitar with high action and just wailing an Elmore James sort of 12th fret thing. And
having it that,
so
working at that 12th fret,
But
open area vector, and then to the 5th fret for your
that's right
for your 4. So
So and I think because we do like to have an arsenal of guitars.
We do.
I think finding or dedicating one instrument to that particular style is tricky. I know that shouldn't be because we have the choice of instruments, but for me, I like to not just dedicate an instrument to slide, perhaps. Like maybe have the ability to knock the action up quickly and then go for it. Do you find that you have dedicated instruments for certain styles, or you kind of like they all do things?
Look, they all do things. I've been guilty of having, like, most guitar players trying to dedicate a cheaper instrument to slide duties, or something which is probably through them being cheap. Like I've got a couple of Dan Electros that I've always kind of jacked the action up on, and I haven't got to the point of raising the nut a little bit or anything with them, but I should do it. And I'm guilty of trying to play slide stuff on an electric guitar that's set up for electric guitar playing, and trying to be as light of touch. I haven't done it for an age, but we used to try and end a set, and often a night, with something like Seven Nation Army, and so I'd be constantly shouting, "Slow down, let me tune, let me tune. I'm not there yet." Yeah. And so I'd sort of be rushing, tuning away, using a terrible floor tuner. I'm not going to use one of those again for that. And by the time that, and it being an idiot too, by the time that you've tuned your tuned it to open A, your A string's now down somewhere about, I don't know, G equals, or your G's in some kind of A equals 417 hertz style tuning. So, when you go for that big A at some point, it's just wrong. So, and I should be taking a slide guitar for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm also, there are a couple of things that we do that I'm playing a little bit of slide in standard tuning, and just hoping that it's going to work on the guitar that I've chosen for. Yeah. And sometimes it's a win, sometimes it's a shocking loss. So
yeah. I remember when I was younger, raising the action, I had this Torch 335.
I remember that guitar, that brown one.
Yeah,
that was a ripper.
It was a ripper.
Yeah.
I bought
and
that.
You sounded great on it too.
Well, it was a cool guitar. And I just did a lot of miles on it, and I played it fingerstyle for a long time, but I wanted a dedicated slide instrument. I remember seeing Dave Hull. We supported Dave Hull years ago, and he had a walnut brown sort of 355 maybe, or 335.
I can't remember, but I do remember seeing him and possibly yourself at, I think, the Batman Faulkner.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember seeing and hearing him on that guitar. I was like, wow, I need a humbucking semi-hollow guitar for this sort of style of playing. And I found one at a pawn shop in Surfers Paradise when we were there once on one of our little family holidays. Picked it up for like $200.
Excellent.
But the action wasn't great, so I was like, perfect, this is going to be my slide guitar. And I put like little strips of paper under the nut.
That old trick.
That old trick. That raised it, got the bridge up. It was happy days. I had a lot of fun on that guitar.
Yeah. Just on that, I do remember getting a Guild D40, so like a Guild's version of a Martin D18 from a guy, and he said, "Oh, look, it's just never sounded right," and it sounded kind of okay. It had a neck repair, which I don't think ruins guitars. Some of them don't seem changed. Some of them do seem changed. I think it's one of those things which it never puts me off, but obviously you always consider it. And he had a nunner that was like you could move with your fingers in the bridge itself.
Yep.
And underneath it was about 6 strips of Meadowlea margarine container to build it up. Great. So I am a fan of that sort of bodge on a guitar. So.
Yeah.
And young Andrew, that dickhead, was guilty of a lot of those kind of capers.
Well, the things you do sometimes just to get you through the gig. Like sometimes an accident will happen, or the guitar will somehow get damaged. So you make it work for that night.
Yeah. But
sometimes you think, it's okay. It's working. This little
Yeah.
this little hack I've done is kind of
No one knows. Yeah.
and then it just sticks. You
Yeah.
just don't get around to changing things sometimes.
No, absolutely. And that way in which we fix things in a way which we might consider temporary, that lasts forever, I think there's an absolute art to that.
Yeah.
Whether it's on a motorcycle, whether it's on an amp, whether it's, probably shouldn't be doing it on amps, but I do, or a guitar that just sort of makes it work, you know.
Yeah.
I've probably still got guitars here where I've fixed the nut with a bit of baking soda and super glue. That works really well. Or whether the other thing that I've done on quite a few Gibsons where the bridge has collapsed, where the tune-o-matic has bent down because, you know, you've been running a fairly high sort of tension on it, is just to get into a vise with a couple of nuts and tighten it up until it's straight-ish, and being happy with that it's straight. So, yeah, probably shouldn't do that, kids at home. So, but it does work. It'll get you out of a fix. So
Absolutely, yes. There's always a way to get you out of a fix.
Yeah, there is. But those sorts of things, those little ways in which you make things that you've got work for what you want, I think are, you know, they're at the heart of what we do, aren't they, sometimes?
I agree. And it's what makes iconic instruments, you know. People talk about, you know, a particular instrument that belongs to a particular player and the way that instrument has evolved with that player and the things that they modify or enhance, or perhaps the opposite of enhancing.
Ruin. Well, not so much. Like when you consider is who's the guy from Free with the 335 with the strap pickup in the middle?
Oh, Alvin Lee.
Yeah. Sorry, Alvin Lee.
From 10 years after.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah. Isn't that a wonderful sort of modification that you like to see? It would have made great sense.
But you hear him play and go, well, cool. He sounds great.
He does. I don't think him sticking that pickup in it is why it sounds great.
No.
But it is his, so...
Yeah.
But I guess to a different point of view as well, when you see Pete Townsend with that rack of Les Paul Deluxes and the ones that he's put the Damasio Super Distortion in the middle of, and that modification, that I like.
Sure.
And I guess it's the Townsend thing, because Townsend is, you know, he's one of the men for me. He's incredible. Yeah. Part of it is, and I guess to get back to your original question, a lot of my guitars unashamedly are me buying a guitar that someone that I love who's playing is buying, and whether it's me having a Neil Young like Les Paul Deluxe over there and having the, you know, the Firebird pickup in the bridge and having the P90 in the neck with a chrome cover and a handmade aluminium pick guard, the Bigsby, all of those things is all because of that. It does sound great, and it is in that tribute way that I've done it.
Yep.
But to return to Pete, I've very, very nearly, you know, pulled the router out on like a 70s Les Paul Deluxe to do that. So I had a Les Paul Deluxe which is gone through a few hands and pops up like a bad penny every now and again. It had a horrific neck repair on it, like stable, but to the point of, you know, there was a lot of putty in it to sort of fill in the broken bits, and it had some case burn and it had a bit of this, and, you know, I owned it. I in my international guitar catch and release program that I run, that went to a mate of mine, Adam, then came back when he was after another Lester because it was a very heavy one, and I very nearly did the Pete on that, because I probably wouldn't use it in the way that, I certainly couldn't use it in the way that Pete does, but you know, just that sort of iconic look, the number on it, just that whole utilitarian thing that Pete kind of, you know, that backflip from going from being, you know, absolutely concerned with fashion and things to, okay, white boiler suit, Doc Martens, guitars with numbers on them. What a guy. Isn't that amazing? So, yes.
Yes. And some would debate his smashing of instruments, though, like, and the amplifications.
He's
ending up in millions of parts. Like,
his kindness to his instruments. I do cringe
every time I see a bit of footage of that.
I don't mind seeing him smash, like, like when you know that some of them have been pieced together just for that,
Yeah.
and are being, you know, super glued back together, so to speak, just
Yes.
for the final song.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily mind. Or if he's got like something which you might consider like he smashed like a Vox Holo on. Was it the Smothers Brothers show or something like that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I'm sure there are guys now that absolutely cringe at that, but
Yeah.
that was a bit of a packing crate special, and
Yep.
he would have seen it as being something disposable. And
Yeah.
but you know, when you see the whether you like them or not, particularly the early stuff, the Rickenbackers, and which are very fine, very smashable instruments.
Very smashable.
Yeah, you can almost sort of
Speaking of beer.
Oh no.
Okay.
But when you see them, you sort of like when you play one of those, you can almost sense the brokenness in them already.
Yeah.
It's in there waiting to be released. They are quite fine in a lot of ways.
Yeah. They are very fine and delicate.
But it is hard, isn't it? When you see Hendrix bashing on those things, when you see Stevie Ray Vaughan standing on that number one Strat, that live at El Macambo, and sort of picking it up and rocking backwards and forwards on it.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Don't you just kind of,
There's a part of me that just,
mate, can you not? Go and get yourself a Dion Strat or something for that.
Yeah.
But no, he's,
in the moment.
in the moment.
Yeah. Back to Townsend for a sec. I
Yes.
showed my son, Mac, a bit of footage because we're talking about, because he's been playing a bit of guitar lately.
Awesome.
He's been loving it.
Awesome.
So, you know, we'll go and plug in and have a jam together, and I just open tune
Oh,
stuff
fantastic.
for him, and he just
That's what I need to do.
puts his fingers here and there, and doesn't make any difference because he's just like not pressing down hard enough. But
He's just laying in with the right hand.
yeah. But I showed him some Townsend windmills the other day because he's got the rock moves going. I was like, mate, you got to get some windmills. So he's like obsessed with windmills at the moment. He's walking around going, oh, just my shoulder's sore. I was like, mate, you got to take it easy on the windmills.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
I can remember at a gig a while back, we've every now and again, and it's quite indulgent to do it, self-indulgent to do it, but we'll do I Can't Explain. Because I've got a Rickenbacker 12, I'll use that. I can remember trying to windmill on that, sort of bringing the guitar forward. And look, if Alan Roth's listening, do a how to windmill on a guitar thing, because it's not easy. It's not something which is instinctive, is it? It's quite hard, and I should spend more time on it. It is, yes, that's it.
The guitar needs to be at a certain length, doesn't it?
Like, got to go low, and you've got to kind of, I think you've got to get a bit of a knee behind it so that you're kind of bringing your arm around.
Yeah, right.
And I can't do the big full windmill.
It's
I just
upstroke,
can't.
isn't it? It's like it's like an anti-clockwise.
It is. And doing one, but I was doing it, as far as I'm concerned, clockwise from the front, clockwise stage right, so to speak. I've hit the strings, picks hit the roof, it's gone out of tune, and it's not a great look. So, but when you see him do it, and like what stagecraft, that's just, isn't it great? Yeah. And the whole bird thing with the feedback, what a man.
Yeah.
And just that, I guess, not being a technically gifted guitarist and not being the most nimble of finger, someone who's doing just rock solid rhythm stuff, again, something I can't do, but that rock solid thing that he did. And, having him as I guess, while he does play a lot of things that are brilliantly guitar stuff, knowing that it's all going on with the Ox behind him, all of that stuff is going to be done there.
Yeah.
What a player.
Yeah.
What a band.
Yes.
What a band.
Yeah.
Hence the high watt. Well, the high watts also, the high watts are a Gilmore thing, probably first and foremost. But, when I plug in that white Townsend SG into that and give it some volume when nobody else is in the house or the neighbourhood, it's pretty empowering sort of thing to do.
One must do it in one's lifetime.
It's good, if they didn't weigh a ton, I'd take it out everywhere. But that high watt cab there, that went from the car to there and nowhere else. Hasn't moved since. So, and the combo, I did take to a few gigs. In fact, our mutual friend, your brother-in-law Charlie, I took it to a gig where his band were playing as well, and used it for that. And it was quite wet of foot, and I can remember standing outside this shearing shed, and it was very cold and very wet, and standing still with the amp. And because of that amp is like I think they're like 38 kilos. That single,
is that the one I schlepped from Melbourne?
It is.
It's no, it's a different one, is it?
No, it was the one that you schlepped from Melbourne.
Right.
Didn't that have some gravity about it?
Yeah.
But I've had it up in my arms because I couldn't carry it with one hand. I've had it up like this, two hands underneath the amp.
Right.
And for a single 12, that was a 100-watt combo.
Yes.
They're like 38 kilos, nearly 40 kilos for a single 12 amp. So they're double a deluxe reverb.
Absolutely.
And standing still, and because it was wet of foot, I've just started sliding down the hill. Standing up with this amp like I'm on a conveyor belt or something.
Yep.
So I thought, I'm not going to do this too much. And I think that amp lived in the car for about a week because of the carry back down the quite steep sort of backyard that we lived in. And I did, Claire said, you worry about getting stolen? I thought, if they want to steal that and carry it somewhere, they've earned it.
Yeah, hats off to them.
They've earned it, yeah. I salute them. They'll be easy to find. They'll be the guys that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, all like hunched over and...
All hunched over, yeah. That's it.
Growling in pain.
Yes, check all the chiropractors first. Don't worry about going to cash converters.
Yeah.
Go to a chiropractor first.
Speaking of like Townsend and Gilmore, so just having a quick scan around the room, there definitely is instruments that are iconic to particular players when you look around.
So the Gilmore Strat's pretty easy to pick out there. Gilmore's always been a big sort of touchstone for me. One of the things that I've always liked, I guess as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, beyond the Robert Johnson stuff that kicked in around the same time, there was a real point where I listened to that almost seemingly exclusively. It was really, I listened to that a lot. Yep. And I still come back to it now. So, I love him as a player. Like, he's an incredible singer as well, which I think, I don't think it gets lost, but, obviously he's like just that sort of tasteful thing. And how does somebody make a pentatonic scale sound so different to what everybody else is doing?
And he's never in a hurry. Like his guitar playing is so melodic and sensible, yet inspiring and honest and heartfelt. To wring as much out of those minimal notes.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely an inspiration to guitar players.
I can remember being absolutely and utterly confused in a conversation with a music nerd and saying something like, well, obviously, Pink Floyd are heaps better than Steely Dan. And they're going, what, you really think that? And I'm going, yeah. He says, well, why do you think that? He says, because they are. And he was like, and he was all about that shitty yacht rock type of thing and all of that, I guess, overly self-considered stuff that Steely Dan do. I don't like them enough to even get their name fucking right, to be honest. But that's, and again, I'm not saying that there's a point where musicality and virtuosity can meet, I think, and it's rare to have both, I would rather listen to Neil Young than, I don't know, Yngwie Malmsteen or something like that. I can appreciate what the dude's doing, and it's virtuosic by all means, but it's not musical to me.
Yep.
And, there are very few people that are that rare sort of heady mix of the two. Our mutual friend Jeff Lang is one that I would put firmly in the camp where, he's melodic, he's virtuosic, he's musical in a way which a lot of people are. Shannon Bourne, another mutual friend, someone who was firmly into that for me as well.
Yep.
And that's a rare thing for me. That sort of musical listenability is key over virtuosity.
Yep.
It's you know, if I want to listen to something fast, I'd stick a fucking sewing machine on, or
Yeah.
I'd turn on my lathe or something like
Yes.
that. So it's
Yeah.
something where that's sort of where it comes to for me.
It's a tricky balance point, though, isn't it? Like, there's a real threshold,
damn, isn't it? Yeah.
between a musical honesty or
How do you
taste,
yeah.
and then being great on it. Because everyone wants to be good on their instrument. Everyone wants to be at a point where you can play without having to think too much. And we all get the impression that you need to, you know, play lots of notes to be good, or to play all these bop chops, you know, like, or just like to be able to be free on your instrument, and to impress ourselves and each other, and perhaps I don't know, like it's a real balance. Like, I remember reading a thing in Guitar Player when I was a kid. I think it was on Eddie Van Halen, talking about how he'd try and learn as much as he could, and then just try and forget it. You know, like having the ability to have skills and chops, but then going, okay, let's erase all that, try and keep the muscles intact. But sort of back it off to where it's musical and not alienating 99%.
I guess that's sort of where it's at. There's such a fine line with that, and it is. And look, it's part of that mystery, isn't it? It is. Maybe it is the mystery. Is you know, how much of that do you need? So, and where's the point where that virtuosity expunges almost the musicality? You know, a couple of fantastic players that you'll sort of listen to. I won't name them because, you know, they're great players, but you'll see them do their own stuff and you'll think, and I'm not talking about people that will be mutual friends of ours or anything, but people who are, you know, great name players in Australia and the US, etc., that you think, I don't like what you're doing there. I really don't. I can see that there's a lot of craft in it, but you'll see them in interviews and they might be playing stuff from their influences as a kid, and you'll go, now I really get what you're doing. I really love that you can do all of this stuff. This is incredible. Yeah. Here's my stuff. I'm back off it again. Can you go back to covering Chet Atkins, please?
Yes, yeah.
That type of thing. So,
yeah, it's a funny old line. I think as a player, you just have to be honest to yourself. Hey, you got to, I guess, have the maturity to think, okay, I'm happy with what I'm doing.
I might stand mute on that. That could be an answer for you because I play what's been described not by me as a shitty bar band, and kind of we are, and that's great. But we have a lot of fun, and we do okay. And I think we're all at a point where we've realised that not in a defensive way, but there are enough shit songs in the world with us adding more to the pile. And you know, we're there to have fun. I'm not a songwriter and player in that sense. You know, I'm about having a bit of fun. And look, I guess, you know, I'm more at the guitar collector end and that sort of thing of what I do. So I'm not sure it's a question that I can really answer with any authority, but I'm very keen to hear what you think about it because you are in that sphere. Sorry to turn this into the Andrew Gregg interview. So tell me, Pete, what do you think?
It's funny. I've had a few people comment saying, "Oh, I want to interview you for one of these podcasts. Maybe at the end of the season, I'll turn the microphone over and
fantastic
have a little chit chat about what I."
You could just cut together that little bit in there for me, or
okay.
I'll pop over to the coast and
all right.
I could read out the questions in my funny Kermit the Froggy voice for you. We've got Shannon from Geelong here asking.
Yes. We've got a reader wants to know what gauge strings you use.
Yes. Anyway.
So, sorry, Andrew, what was the question? You put me off guard.
You asked the question. I've just evaded the answer. It was about people being invested in their playing or in their musicality or in their technique.
Yeah. I think it depends on what stage you're at as a player and as a person, I think. When you're in that influential period, say between 10 and 20, right? You're a sponge, you're absorbing, you're learning. Your ability to get all that done is so much more efficient than it is, 30 plus. So I think that's where you get your... That's the time where you sort of create a lot about who you are as a player, and you get your influences, and you have to get some skills up. You know, you have to be able to play your instrument and to do to say what you want to say, or to put a feeling across that you want. And it really, it's such a tricky one, because, you know, sometimes a songwriter will play these crazy chords that a guitar player will never think of, because the songwriter is plucking out notes that don't fall under the fingers very easily. But maybe that's what they're hearing. Maybe they're coming from a piano background or something.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great topic, and I'm going to try and probably ask that more often on the podcast. Just the balance between your instrument and musical versus, you know, virtuosic performance. I think it's, I don't know. I'm just sorry, I'm staring at the basement right now. I'm just sort of thinking about
which one?
Blonde basements. There's a pair there now.
There is. There's a pair in there. The top one is myself and a very good friend have that in concert, so to speak. And the bottom one is, look, that might be the piece of gear that I've had for the longest. That one I got, it was 90s. It was in the 90s. It was probably about 97.
Mm-hmm. Trading Post?
No, that one... We'll get back to the Trading Post. I do want to talk about the Trading Post, but that was in Hobart in Southern Music.
Uh-huh.
And I'd bought a twin reverb from there that I traded a Music Man 21065 in my catch and release program. The Music Man was ex-Billy Whitten. Shout out to Billy. He's an incredible player and a lovely man, and was pointed out to me by my guitar teacher when I was about sort of 16, 17 as being the best guitar player in Tasmania as far as he was concerned, by Jason Bazant. And he said, you know, Billy's one of those guys that it's like he's almost like he's got a lick in his mind and he's going to point it out towards you, and he'll just sort of lean in towards you and look at you and point this lick towards you. And he said, you watch him play. And I had the pleasure of being in Billy's company for a lot of time when he was playing and chatting, and he was really, really kind to me and gave me a little bit of a peek behind the curtain with a lot of stuff that goes on with his playing, and I'm really, really grateful for that. But the Bassman, I'd bought one there and said, if any other old valve amps come up, please let me know, because I'd gotten onto valve amps early in my my career. And that one came up, and I went down thinking, well, I'll try and bargain them down to something, because it was $1,000, which seems stupidly low now. And going in and turning it up to 10 and playing it, and it was just this, you know, fantastic, despite having, you know, terrible speakers in it. It was just this glorious sound, and I thought, well, there's that gone, isn't it? So, you know, handed my money over. It's stayed with me ever since, and it's such a great amp, and I do take it out, as you can see. It's
Did it look like that when you bought it, or is that from you using it, do you think? Or is it just...
It was painted black, and look, I always but it's actually, it's a kind of, it is like a bit of a, it's not a unicorn, but it's a fairly rare variant of this. It is the Beatles amp, as you could say. A lot of Beatles stuff was recorded on a 6G6C Bassman, not B. This is a later version before they stopped making them. This one is August 64 from memory. It's one of the greatest sounding amps that I've come across. It sounds fantastic. I know that all 6G6A or 6G6, 6G6A, 6G6B, and now that I know about 6G6C, they all sound great. They just sound good. This one to me sounds just perfect. And when you take it out with a spring reverb and just maybe a dirt pedal, you're going to sound great all night. And I love when I get to play at gigs where the room's big enough to take it in and the stages are well appointed enough that I can do so. And it's worth, you know, that extra sort of carry that you have with it.
Yeah.
I like these amps so much that I recently bought, a couple of years back, bought a Bassman from a good friend of ours that had been turned into a combo. So the
yeah,
same
yeah.
version of the amp, but it had been comboised.
Was that Sweet Baby James from Adelaide? I think he sold it to Shannon,
Yeah.
perhaps, and then
So it is that one.
Yep.
It is that one, and I thought, yes, it's going to be a little bit different because, it had a flat logo on it, I think, and was in a thing, and I thought, well, this is great. I'll have two. I'll have different ones to compare to. That one there is serial number BP 120055. The one that I got from Shannon was BP 120053. So not only is it the same amp, it's like a couple less. However, the interesting and very, very nerdy thing about it is you can hear the people turning off already, can't you? Is that this one has the rotary selector for the international voltage.
Okay. Yep.
The Shannon one,
export model or whatever.
the export one, had it inside like the old school ones where you pull out a wire and plug it into something else.
Yep.
It had that.
Okay.
So I'm not saying this is, and I think that I've seen ones on the good old internet that I don't know why that one that's two serial numbers apart is like that, because I've seen earlier amps with the rotary selector. Now I've seen amps that are earlier that are they call it tuxedo, which is black cosmetics, but the white knobs like this.
Yep.
I'm actually wondering whether Fender painted them now. I don't know any different because I know that there are ones that are in black Tolex. I don't know if this one's been recabbed perhaps. I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the cab is how I've dated it because of the little date code that's on the tube chart inside it. That's how I've dated it.
Right.
But maybe, just maybe, Andrew's has spent a lot of time and sniffed a lot of chemicals stripping paint off an amp that Fender actually painted because they needed to get him looking black. I don't know. But anyway.
Could have been in that transition period, hey, because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
64, 65 is
And
when
look,
they went to the...
They weren't thinking about nerds in the future. They were thinking about selling stuff and,
Absolutely.
they've got the Beatles using amps, so why? Let's keep making a few of these in this colour. We're transitioning to this because everyone likes the new cool black look.
Yeah.
We've still got a heap of those chassis and transformers and things that's just pumping through that way. They're making sandwiches. They might as well be making sandwiches and using up all of the ham.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what's going on there. So.
Maybe it did come out black from... I don't know. Did it look like it was a professional black?
You couldn't tell
Right.
that it wasn't meant to be black until you looked,
Right.
until you pulled the back covers off.
Okay.
Yeah, you couldn't tell.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's interesting, and I hope there's some nerd out there that knows more about this than me. So,
I had a similar experience. Jeb Cardwell from Melbourne was playing a show together with the Backward Creatures with Squire and Tim.
Squeeze.
And he was telling me about his Strat. He's got an 80s 62 reissue.
Yeah,
Same guitar as I've got. I've got a 80s 62 reissue.
I've got the 57 there. That's like an 85.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Great guitars.
yeah.
I'm really happy with mine. I've... what did I do? I traded something in for it. Down at Solders in Hobart.
Oh, good old souls.
Anyway, because both of our Strats are black, but he took the black off his because he thought it was an aftermarket, someone sprayed.
Yeah, I've done that. I haven't taken it off, but I've had the thought.
He said it was really challenging because it had like a cream sort of primer or undercoat on it, and he got it down to that, but it's really thin. So that.
Yeah.
So I think he thought the black was... Well, I don't know, maybe his guitar had been painted, but
Yeah.
I showed him mine. He's like, oh, maybe I spent all this time and energy taking the black off when it was actually meant to be on there.
Yeah, I had a what was it? Like about an 84, 85 black 62 reissue.
Mm-hmm.
And there were, underneath the chips, it was Fiesta Red. You see a few chips here and there.
Yeah.
But the Telltale, which made me know that it was factory, is... Do you want to grab the Strat? I'll just show you really quickly. And sorry, nerds, actually, no, nerds, I know that you'll appreciate this. The Telltale that made it right is this... Oh, it's fallen off. This here is the polish from the factory, and it's always in the spring cover. And they've most often got a little inspection, like, you know, little sticky dot in there.
Right.
And if it's there, you know it's factory, or that someone who's really deep faking it. But yeah, that's what made it factory.
Okay.
So I know that one's that. And you'll know that these are going to be, not because of the really low serial number, but this sort of offset bias body was what they were mostly doing at that point, as well as yours. You might be able to see the seam on yours. They did an offset body there. But they are absolute crackers, these ones. They go really, really well. This is a bit of an unloved sort of puppy, this one was. And this was bought into my Guitar Pound a good 10 years ago, I think, as an unloved, and to the person that had it, they didn't value this one at all, I'd say. And
well, by the look of the relic job, they didn't love it very much.
Well, I think the relic job has come from it being in a shitty case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there are a couple of spots, particularly here, where you can see a little bit of fur from, the way that nitro will react to a shitty fur case. And I think they've tried to knock it off and then turn it into a relic. You can see a kind of bit of finish burn from that type of thing there as well.
Yeah.
And that still feels a little bit sort of squishy there. So it's kind of like that. It's also some genius has had I presume, a Roland pickup on it as well at some point. But it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Because it's just a tiny hole. So
yeah, and it's just another story, another part of its charm, and the cigarette burn in the top there.
I think that's intentional too. I reckon someone's gone a bit of Eric Clapton on that.
I think you're right. Wonderful things.
They are indeed. But those little sort of things where you're kind of picking up things as you go along, and you're just learning something new with almost everything that you do with these guitars. Yeah. And like the Mosrite beside you there, I'm learning about that today, and that has me and a lot of people stumped at the moment. But I've through the help of a guy in Sydney, I've found out that one is where it should be and what it is, and now I know that it's what it is. And I think we've both shared on that journey today, myself and Frank, his name. But it's you're always going to pick up a tiny little thing if you are catching and releasing as I do.
Yep. I've noticed they've got the 0 fret. Do you know, I was talking to John Parsons, who makes guitars here in Launceston.
Yeah. Or in Devonport now, isn't he? Making guitars there?
Oh, no. I interviewed him a couple of months ago. He's living out in Lonnie. Yeah,
okay, excellent, yes.
On that side of town, like Riverside sort of area.
Yeah. I think I've picked up parts from him in the last decade.
Yeah. Making some really beautiful guitars. And one of his features is the 0 fret.
Yeah.
I don't know, I've never really thought much about it. And the more I play guitars that have them, there's not many that do it, but I know that Gretsch did them for a while.
So
what's your take on that? Do you think it's a cool thing, or is it kind of a bit unnecessary, or are we just getting
it does
splitting
make
hairs
it hard.
at the moment?
I think you're splitting hairs. I really don't know, but it doesn't mean that you're able to raise your nut very easily. Mm-hmm. My take on it a bit is that it might have been, factory expedience that you could not have to worry too much about your nut. I had a Gretsch Country Gent, which has gone to a mate of mine in Hobart, and I had that refretted, and it came back with a new nut. I'm thinking, why has it got a new nut? Because they're a bit of a string guide is sort of my...
Yes.
That's it. So, yeah. I don't mind... I don't necessarily seek them out, nor do I shun them. So that's something which I don't consider. Most of the Gretsch's I've had haven't been 0 fret ones. As you'll see, I've got that one there, the Tennessee Rose, with just a normal nut, and the Billy Bow is a normal nut as well. Yeah. And I've had duo jets with both. I think I've had a 62 and a 56, and I'm pretty sure they were both... I'm pretty sure the 62 might have been a normal nut. I can't remember now. There you go. That was released into the wild a good 12, 13, 14 years ago, that one. So,
are there particular instruments you look back and think that was a silly decision? Did I or did I really make the most of that opportunity, or like are there certain things that you've kind of gone, maybe that wasn't a great idea?
Well, look, every guitar is one you're going to keep forever until something else that you want to keep forevermore comes along, aren't they? And there have been ones like that. There have been some old Martins that I should have kept because they sounded amazing.
Yeah.
There have been some silly little things that have been, and I'm of an age or a maturity, I guess, where it's about good guitars, not American-made brand guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I'm not, I do say it a lot to myself and to other people. It's an incredible guitar for the amount of money,
Yeah.
or for something you weren't considering to be good. So 20 years ago, if you'd have said that I'd be super excited about getting like a Japanese Epiphone Casino, I'd have probably been super excited about it. It was an incredibly, small spend on a guitar.
Yeah.
But the Casino behind me there is just, look, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything is great about it.
Yeah.
There was I presume Korean-made Epiphone Sorrento that a friend of mine has with mini humbuckers, and it was a monkey to buy, $500, and it was not only did it seem really good buying at the time, but when I've taken it home and played it, I've gone, God damn, there's so much that's good about this. It sounds great on the couch. It's plugged in. It sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
It was on the more uncontrollable side of hollow body tone, as opposed to that, the Gretsch that I'm pointing at. And that was, things like that surprise me.
Yeah.
But there are, everyone has guitars that they shouldn't have sold, or they've had, or even I guess in a pure business sort of sense. And look, obviously my catch and release program means that I can surround myself in guitars, and that my hobby in doing this and, being part of a supply chain, I guess, for people that want these things means that, you can't look at them from a business perspective and go, well, I should have kept that because that's now, that's now not a 5-figure guitar, it's a 6-figure guitar. Or it's not a 6-figure guitar, it's going to be a 7-figure guitar very soon, or that sort of thing, which is not the way that I think about this sort of thing at all. You're getting rid of them for a reason sometimes, whether it's because it's not just the right one for you. I had a custom-coloured mid-60s Strat, which when I've bought it, and it was a real investment. It was a lot of money. There's sort of no two ways about that. And I sold it really quickly because there's always a bit of nervousness about having something which is quite stealable, quite sort of breakable, quite burnable, quite and it's worth at the time a third of what a house is. So that was an odd feeling. But I was more than happy to sort of release that into the wild because it didn't sound great. It was an incredible collector piece, but not an incredible player piece. One of the guitars that I really I regret selling and keep thinking about and still sort of haunts me a bit is about 20. Actually, I can time that it's probably sold 21 years ago because it's my wonderful eldest 21st birthday today. In 1974. In fact, I sold it to get a guitar that I was on the phone buying when he was days old. So I was buying a 62 Strat with gold parts and a slab board. And I can remember selling I sold an Olympic white 1974 Strat with original staggered pole pickups that I can remember thinking at the time, geez, this is a good sounding Strat. I really like this. There's something that's really nice. And there was a real sort of sweet treble presence to it. Not sort of, trebly by, but there was this sort of sweetness to the treble of that guitar acoustically and plugged in. It was phenomenal. It was perfect. It was really good. And I sold it at a pretty good it was a good little turnaround, I guess, in that way. But to get onto that Strat, and that other Strat was good, maybe even great, but it wasn't as good as that one. It wasn't the magic thing. So it's not about the prestige or value of something. It's about that little thing quite often. So
it's the way that all the parts come together
Yeah.
maybe the grain of the wood, or just something clicks every now and again. Hey, something just like maybe it's the way that it's been stored or played for the last however long.
Maybe it's been in a nice humid environment, which isn't great for guitars in some cases.
Yeah.
And it hasn't sort of really dried out dramatically at some point. Maybe that's it. Or for whatever reason, maybe the parts were just a tighter and greater tolerance. One of the things about the sort of, the snake oil around a lot of parts is, manufacturing techniques with tighter tolerances. Maybe there is something to it. And, as a guy that's just stuck quite a special bridge on that SG there, I'm gone, having the white SG there, that did make it sound amazing, but it also introduced something which SGs can do, whereas, your upper frets get a bit banjo-y, and you've got stuff that there's a resonant frequency sort of shift that you might be introducing that kind of has, I guess, some kind of weird phase cancellation that happens at a mechanical level. I don't really know. There's something that's happened to that which makes it sound great sound great in a lot of ways, but not as great at the dusty end. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, that particular mob was the locking tailpiece, and I only did that because the original bridge slopped around in the things. But maybe it's just that real mixture of things coming together in a way which is either tied or at that wood's perfect resonant frequency. Yep. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, it's all that secret mojo-y stuff that just keeps us going, doesn't it? It's like
it is.
Sometimes you pick it up and don't even look at the brand, don't even look at where it's from. Like you just pick it up and go, wow, that's something about that particular guitar, and then you realise it's like $100,
Well, that's it, yeah.
Throw together the guitar and.
It is. Or it's like, whilst we all want to talk about tone woods and materials, I don't want to get into those sort of things because that is, I've seen a lot of stuff that's been shared on the internet recently about stuff where people are really, really getting it wrong, I think, on that, saying, tone woods are nothing. They are something. And it's not just, it's science. It's not only is it sort of scientific, it's also experiential. I've had Martin D18s and D28s from very similar batches, very similar eras, very similar times, and the D18s always sound like D18s, and the difference is, a little bit of tone wood.
Yeah.
It's the same guys on the tools, it's the same construction technique, it's the same bracing pattern, it's the same. It's the wood that's different, and they sound different. Yeah. I've had D28s from very small gaps in serial numbers, 400 apart, one Brazilian rosewood, one Indian rosewood. The Indian rosewood one sounded incredible, and the Brazilian one sounded more in every way. Okay. And it wasn't something which, I was hearing that was just, it sounded better to me. It sounded better to every single person that I played it to. Mm-hmm. And there's a way in which particularly if you're playing Martins, we could be sitting like this and swapping guitars going, no, that one sounds better, and change. Yeah. No, that one sounds better to me now. And it's not just because you're playing it much better than most people that we all know. It's that to hear that facing towards me sounds better. It wasn't that. It was, oh, no, that's the one.
Yeah, right. It was
no, can I get that one back, please? Yeah. And they would have been made in exactly the same way, the same glues, the same guys on the tools, the same frets. Yeah. It's just that now that we're using a different type of rosewood. Yeah. And, it's undeniable that Brazilian rosewood is something which is very sought after for various things in guitar making, and it seems to be fetishised in a way, but it's fetishised for a reason because it sounds particularly good and has a self-structure that lends itself to certain resonances, and that's it. There's sort of no two ways about that one. I think, you don't need to have some guy with some ridiculous sort of air guitar thing going on to try and disprove that one.
Yeah. Yeah, fact.
Let's not talk about that one. In fact, cut that bit out because I sound a little bit sort of conspiracy theory nut on that. So, but to go back really quickly to the trading post, just to bring that up.
Let's Finish on the trading post.
Let's finish on the trading post. I come from an era where I was, one of the things about living in Tasmania, and I've even talked to people about this today, is that I'm used to buying things that I haven't played, that I haven't seen. I was buying stuff out of the trading post in the 90s that not only I hadn't seen, I hadn't even seen a picture of.
Yeah.
That I'm just on the phone gauging the guy.
Yeah.
Whether he knows what he's talking about and, whether he seems right, whether he seems good.
And it was verbal communication,
Verbal.
I think that is so crucial to judging someone's knowledge about the instrument perhaps.
Yeah.
And just the vibe, like the trustworthiness. Like anyone can write an email and perhaps pull the wool over someone's eyes.
Yeah,
but to actually get on the phone and to talk to someone is...
Well, for this guy with the Mosrite that I'm looking at today, he's actually sent me a message last night saying, look, how about you call me? And I thought, good, this could go okay. I don't think it's going to work out with the guy. That's okay. But I'd rather talk to somebody. It's because, there's risk in selling now, it seems. So there's, great sort of pitfalls to be had where you will sort of risk things. Back in the day for me with that, I discovered a loophole that not anybody else had really twigged to that much, or not anybody had twigged to the point where, and had got to the point where they were buying stuff sight unseen. That meant that I could jump on a lot of things before other people were.
Yeah.
I foolishly let somebody else know about it, who then sort of found a better loophole than mine, which was, bribing somebody that worked in the trading post.
Okay. Fair enough.
So their loophole was better than my loophole by a damn stretch. So,
yep.
But it was, it was just what we had to do. You can't find a Mosrite. You could barely find a Gretsch. You can't find... Look, even, getting USA Fenders was really tough in the 90s.
Yeah.
When that sort of often used rarely comes up for sale thing, I'll give you rarely comes up for sale. I live in Tasmania, mate.
Yeah.
You just don't see these things. So I got very adept at buying things like that and trusting in that, and trusting that, my instincts would be good. And, it is part of what I do. That verbal communication thing too makes me sort of think too, if I had to give advice to anybody that's interested in collecting guitars, it's talking to people. And if you're a gigging musician, if anybody ever comes up to you and wants to talk about the guitar you're playing, chat long and hard.
Yeah.
I've bought guitars that way. And, I very, very early on, I bought a very, I've secured a very, very desirable instrument in that. And so in that same way that was just a chance sort of thing, I really like your Gretsch. I said, thanks, man. They're really nice guitars, aren't they? What do you think? Do you want to have a little play on it? He said, yeah, I've got an old one. And so that sort of started that.
Yep.
If anybody wants to talk about your guitars with you, have the chat. You might have 1,000 conversations where it's not fruitful.
Yeah.
You only
finishes that night.
You only need to have one conversation.
Yeah.
Where it is.
Yeah.
I had that with a .NET 335. So proper .NET 335. So, and that conversation came through me playing guitar and them having a chat with me about it.
Yeah.
And no matter how, everyone's worthy of your conversation when you're playing out somewhere, I think, at every single point. Or if you're carrying a guitar case and somebody stops and says, hey, what's in the case? Always have a chat if you've got time, because you never know. They might be trying to work out whether you know what that, or whether you might know what they've got is. So, and just be kind. Don't rip anybody off. If somebody says to you, oh, look, I think this 335 is worth $1,000, say, look, no, it's actually worth a real lot more.
Yeah.
And, be kind with that.
Yeah, be kind. And, in the world of trading and selling and buying, like, there's some schmucks out there. Like, you just got to trust your gut and be honest. And
look, a lot of them are coming to me trying to say, man, no, they're a dime a dozen up here. Then here's, $10, buy me as many of them as you can. Can you find me some more, please?
Give me some more.
Get me some more, champ. Come on. Good on you, matey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ace.
Yeah, thanks.
all of those things.
Yeah.
So, but it's look, there's the only time that's I've let myself down a little bit with that was buying an old Dobro, and I've just said to the lady out of the trading post, wow, it's old, and I've meant it in a incredibly positive way. So if you don't like it, you can have it for this, and I've sort of stopped and thought, and I was young at the time, and money was pretty tight for me, and that's one of the times that I did not do. I didn't live by my own maxim there. So
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, it's old.
Wow, it's old. And yes, there was no subtext for her with that. So
Yeah.
but it's one of those things that you've got to, if you deal with people fairly, if you're selling stuff, leave something in for the next guy if you can, and do all those things. So catch and release, boys.
Catch and release.
Catch and release.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Andrew, for letting me into your wonderful cave of strings and tubes and transformers
and stuff.
What else?
And
is
mess. There's mess. Don't worry about the mess.
Yeah, it's all right. I don't see the mess.
It's all here, isn't it? So
yeah. Thanks again for the chat.
Absolute
version
pleasure.
2. I'll back this one up and hopefully it reaches the good audience.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Happy days.
Days.
I think the first one was better now that I think about it, but here we are. Yeah, no.
Thanks for listening, folks, to another episode of Say It With Guitars. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, share it around to your mates, leave a good review, and hopefully we'll see you next time.